7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
All right, welcome to a special Islands Live presented by DraftKings Sportsbook. We've got a guest for the first time ever. And I just want to point out, because there were some comments about our tardiness that I can't complain about start times anymore. I just want to give a shout out to you, Richard, because it is 6:21 a.m. in LA where you're at, and you are such a good friend. Such a good friend that you jumped on this stream with me. I appreciate you.
Well, first of all, yes, it is 6:21. I apologize for a little bit of my tardiness. I was updating my Chrome. I didn't know that was. I'm awfully. We're gonna have to jump. Ooh, that looks a little softer. Ooh, now we're cooking. That gets my natural glow. Yeah, so it's great to be here. I'm really excited, with the most popular man in all of sports now, not just broadcasting, but also the NBA. I'm just really excited to be here.
I know what you're doing there. I want to apologize to you for my unprofessionalism this morning with the backwards cap, because, I don't know if people know this or not, but certain times when you record content, you're not allowed to have logos. So I don't have any hats without logos. So I've got to turn my cap backwards.
Okay.
Other times when you live in a city like New York and you walk places, my hair, if it's blow dried and you put a little product in it, if it's raining like it's raining today, it's just a bad look. I look like a wet dog, so
honestly,
the cap solves things.
The cap solves. This is the thing about this. We'll just go straight there. I personally think it's unprofessional. In my opinion, you dressing the way you do, acting the way you do. I've often thought it's kind of with Michael Phelps. He really proved that, if you smoke weed, you can accomplish nothing. Oh, is this live?
All right, let's get into some basketball stuff, dude. So I covered both games this weekend in Indiana. Game 5 back in the Garden. Another short turnaround. Obviously, with the afternoon game Sunday, flight back to New York, Knicks get a full day off. I can't say I'm surprised at their performance last night, because they've done this so many times this year. We're going to try not to cuss. We aren't supposed to cuss on the live stream. That's the one But it's just like another just gutsy, energetic performance from them. We're going to get into a bunch of stuff about the game. The one guy I just want to shout out, which I'm blown away by, and that's Alec Burks. Okay. This was a guy who gets traded midseason. He's, his wife and kids, I don't know if they ended up moving, but for at least a large portion of his time in New York in the regular season, they were still in Detroit. So he's like away from his family. He struggled a bit in the regular season. Up until this weekend, he hadn't played a game in a month. The last time he played was like April 12th. And they literally pull him out of the rafters. And this guy goes for 14 on Friday night, 20 on Sunday, and then 18 again last night. Richard, how hard is it as a basketball player to just sit for that amount of time? It's like the ultimate measure of professionalism to me.
That is. I think that's the one part about being a professional athlete that people don't fully get that context. It's like, you might not play for a week, and this might be your opportunity. You might not play for a first half, and you got to come in the middle of a second half and give 6-8 minutes and not be the reason why something goes wrong, right? If we're going to play you and you didn't play, if you go in there and you turn the ball over 2 or 3 times and then you're just not making shots, that might have been your 6 minutes. No, Alec Burks, the thing about him is that I had him in Utah when he was a young player, super skilled, really dealt with a lot of injuries, but there was no doubt about his talent and his ability. I would say this. Some of the coaching to me is drawing the most out of what you have, not just the most out of a certain group of players. And to me, I feel like Alec could have done more. he could have done more earlier, in my opinion, right? I just think that he's one of those talented players. He can go get a bucket. He can go do some things off the dribble. Is he a consistent shooter? No. Is he a consistent defender? No. But you were leaning so heavily on 4 or 5 guys that I just felt like there was 1 or 2 more guys on that roster that Tibbs could have gotten more out of, and Burks is doing it.
Yeah. Last comment I want to make before we get into some Brunson stuff, some Haliburton stuff, Hartenstein, all that stuff. The last comment I want to make as it relates to the Knicks and this constant discussion about the minutes they play. And it was like, is the question after Sunday to me was, is this going to start a trend for them, or is this game an anomaly? And I think they answered it last night that Sunday was an anomaly, right? In terms of just the amount of force and effort and energy required to win a playoff game. Like, these guys have had it. They played heavy minutes. They've had it. And then guess what? One day they didn't have it, and they answered it a day and a half later. They have it. They still have it.
Well, when you look at, there's certain teams that just have a certain aura energy about them. The old Pistons, and when I say old Pistons, I mean, I know, God, we're old. I mean, like those early mid 2000 Pistons.
The early aughts.
The early aughts. Oh God. No, when you look like the Memphis Grizzlies team, there were just certain grinded out teams that just had a collection of players. Marc Gasol, Zach Randolph, Tony Allen. They just had a collection of players. And I think this Knicks team is a collection of players. Do I think it helps that, 3 of their main players went to college together and know each other and just when to lift someone up, when to kind of check them? They have a trust there. They can say, hey, we can get a better shot. There's a connection there with that team. But boy, I tell you, this Knicks team, they're just different. This energy is different.
No side agendas too.
No, and they're very well defined. Yeah. Very well defined. It's like they're looking for Brunson, and if Brunson doesn't have it, then they're gonna go. You got the rebounders, right? Josh Hart, all these guys. DiVincenzo has been shooting like he just is catch and shoot aggressive. It's. I'm trying to think of a player that's not named Steph Curry to give a reference to, but I just can't think of any just really good shooters off the top of my head.
Yeah. Well, Dante DiVincenzo, I believe in the tracking era, if you count catch and shoot threes, total catch and shoot threes, regular season and playoffs, so we have 10 years of tracking data, he's got the 4th most in this era in terms of catch and shoot threes this season. I mean, he's been outstanding. No answer for Brunson last night. Set the tone. Dude is so good. They hunted matchups at times. Neesmith still did like a solid job on him overall, but like Jaylen, I want to make the comparison, and I'm gonna tread lightly on this, RJ, but you'll know what I'm saying. I'm not saying Jaylen Brunson is Jokic, but I want to make the comparison within the context of these 2 playoff series, because we're going to react to the Timberwolves and Nuggets in a second. The greatest players, I should say, and I will put Jaylen Brunson as one of the greatest players in today's NBA. The greatest players eventually solve you. Whatever you're throwing at them, they eventually solve it. And it could be a singular defender. It could be a coverage. It could be you mixing up coverages. These guys are just so damn good. So last night, they blitzed Jaylen Brunson more in Game 5 than they had in all the previous 4 games combined, and he had 44. Like, that's it. The Knicks scored 34 points on the 28 possessions where they blitzed him. So, like, what's the answer here? He's just that good.
He's better than that good, right? Because it's just the consistency of he's better than that good. He's great. He's been absolutely. No, it's one of those things when you look at him and his footwork, his pace, understanding moment. Again, even what game was that where he missed most of this second quarter? Was that game 2?
Game two.
So in game 2, it's like even for him to miss a chunk of time, come back, and like nothing stopped. His teammates kind of held on, and he just kept going. No, I would say Brunson is putting together one of those all-time guard runs. When you talk about Jokic and how they figure it out, there's a couple of guys in this league right now that are in the process of either figuring it out or trying to figure it out. Because when you look at Shea, what he's been doing, some of his late game performance, I've just been impressive watching Brunson, because he was this guy last year and won the playoff series. He's really turned into that guy. He was that guy for the Knicks. I think he's that guy in the league now.
Yeah, I would agree. Little adjustment from Tibbs. They took Precious Achiuwa out of the starting lineup and put Deuce McBride. Sorry, I always call him Miles McBride, but Deuce McBride in. He had a really good game. More shooting on the floor. The ball pressure and pickup point with Haliburton, I thought was key. Haliburton, there was a lot of chatter last night, and there was some on the broadcast, and there was, obviously a lot on Twitter. Look, I think it is proven that against the best teams, Haliburton has to be aggressive as a scorer, and he can't float. And it felt like last night, and it felt like in game one, he floated on the offensive end. And look, I get it, man. Advance pass, move the basketball, all that stuff. At some point, you don't have to be Jaylen Brunson. You don't have to play exactly like Jay. But at some point, you got to say, okay, I'm going to control this possession with the basketball, and I'm going to look for my shot. And there wasn't enough of that last night. There wasn't enough of that in game one. And we have the track record from this series where in games 2, 3, and 4, when you're aggressive, it gives your team a better chance to win.
Well, I think they're a 25-10 guy. All right, he's a 25-10 guy for them to be successful. I think he's got to put up quality numbers. The question is, do you go for your 20 first and then your 10? Do you go for the 10 first and then your 25? Now, it sounds simpler than that, but you understand this. There are certain offensive players that will come out there, distribute to their teammates, get their guys going, almost defer in that first quarter. We saw that with Donovan Mitchell, on a few different times in Boston in game 2. He took 6 shots in the first half. When you're taking just a few shots and then you can pick up your aggressiveness, I think what I've seen from Tyrese is a little bit of struggle with the balance, when to be the aggressive scorer. Doesn't matter who else is out there, because this selfishness or greatness has to be selfish at some point in time. They're going to need him to be selfish and say, hey, I'm one of the top 2 scorers on this team. I have to go be that. And then around that, when the pressure comes, then I'm going to distribute, and finding that balance. And I think that's the hardest part for those young superstars, to find that balance. And I think Haliburton's looking for that. That's what he's searching for, is that balance, because when he's not aggressive and he's looking for people, it looks like he's playing good basketball and trying to create, but it's like there's certain moments where it's like, bro, you got to go give us 15 in the first quarter, then you can get everybody else involved. Or there's nights where other people have it involved, and you're just kind of slowly distributing, knowing that you're going to pick up your offense production because it's going to be needed, because you're going against a bunch of dogs.
Yeah. I want to make one point on that, but I want to save it for a second because it's going to transition into Jokic and the Nuggets. But I do want to acknowledge that Isaiah Hartenstein had another monster performance. I've been talking about this guy. It feels like for the last 4 months, but certainly since mid-January, mid-February on. He's just such an impactful player. 12 offensive rebounds last night. It goes back to what I said at the beginning about just like feeling like after watching last night, I'm like, no, Sunday was just an anomaly. Sunday was an anomaly because this felt like, when I think of this team and their identity and how Jaylen Brunson controls the game, how everybody buys into their roles, how they go 0 to 60 in 2.7 seconds like a Porsche 911 Turbo S, like it is, they do. I'm like,
I didn't say anything.
This felt like a New York Knicks game. You know what I mean? Like this was the team. This was the team that has been so fun to watch for the past 5 months.
I think this is going back to last year when they first showed up. So yeah, you come into the season with expectations in the last couple of months. with injuries, and we talk about injuries to, Giannis and Embiid. This team's dealt with a ton of injury, and the fact that their leader and the leaders around them. So sometimes people think a team is just a singular leader or it's just a coach. No, there's a collective here of people that are doing their jobs at an elite level. Hartenstein, he took 3 shots and was maybe the second most impactful player in the entire game for both teams. Yeah. The fact that he had more offensive rebounds than their team did, or than their team had defensive rebounds, and the Pacers had defensive rebounds, through the first half? It was special, but it's special to watch somebody do their role with enthusiasm and be elite at it. Now, is he rebounding for this contract that he's about to get? Damn right he is. Damn right he's rebounding his ass off for that contract. But he is going to get paid, and rightfully so, because his impact is so high for that squad. If they're not shooting an efficient night, he's getting you second opportunities. And again, we talked about Mitchell Robinson. That was one of the things that he did. He's gone. He's just picked up and continued it.
Yep. All right. Well, Josh Hart, 18-11. Let's go back to what I was going to say about Brunson as it relates to Haliburton, and it gets us into Jokic. When we talk about control and command of a game, RJ, I think we almost always, at least I feel this way, and correct me if I'm wrong, because you may have somebody in mind, but I feel like control and command, we think of perimeter players, we think of primary ball handlers, we think of the Chris Paul, we think of the LeBron, the Luka, James Harden, Jaylen, Tyrese Haliburton at times, of course. Like, that's who we think of. And I feel like I was watching last night and I'm like, no, Jokic, like, he's the big that has complete control and command of the game, and it feels like it's like at all times. And last night was a perfect example of that. The guy goes for 40 points, double-digit assists, 0 turnovers. Just whether it's passing, scoring, he downloads whatever you're trying to do. And a lot of times he figures it out in real times, but you give him, 2-3 games to figure you out. Good luck.
And he's so much meaner than people give him credit for. He's so much meaner. Oh, you want to do this? Fine. I'll go score. Like, he's so much meaner than people, and not in a disrespectful way, but in a way of like, he's like psychotically trying to figure out how he's going to dominate, because he'll beat you with the pass. He'll beat you with the 3. Oh, you want me to just post up and go solo one-on-one? Because a lot of times that's what teams, he knows. You talk about great players figuring out, okay, well, we're going to stay at home. We're going to let him play a little one-on-one against Nas, against Rudy. We're going to limit our 2, stay down, don't put him on the free throw line. Well, he will go to work. If you told him just to be a post player and not like a post scorer and not a passer, he would still get you the same amount of points. But his ability to distribute and get other people involved in playing these games, these no looks that he's dropping off to dunks, he's faking the lob, throwing it out to wide open threes. You've played with Chris Paul. I play with Jason Kidd and LeBron. There are certain guys that just know how to manipulate the game to get everyone shots. But he is special, in my opinion, just because the position in which he does it, there's always more freedom. Chris Paul's under pressure. There's guards under pressure. His pressure is kind of like, you don't want to apply too much. You don't want to apply too little. You're constantly doing a dance. And once you start dancing with him, he owns you.
Yeah, we've talked about this on Monday's show. We talked about it last week as a potential adjustment. They continue to go with Gordon and a lot last night as well. Jokic as the ball handlers that bring the ball up, takes Murray off the ball, takes the wear and tear off. It allows him then to get moving into whatever action. Aaron Gordon, like I feel like at times this year, and I will like say that I'm guilty of this. I feel like last year we praised him. There was a lot of talk about him potentially being an all-star, in the same vein as like Andrew Wiggins the year before, right? The guy who was miscast early in his career, who then starred in his role, had a massive impact on winning. Let's reward the guy. And then they go win a championship. And he had some dominant stretches, particularly when Miami or Lakers at times, like if you put a smaller player on him, he's gonna mash, right? And I feel like at times, like this year for me, I've really been impressed with like Michael Porter Jr.'s growth, his efficiency. I've been impressed with KCP defensively, and I've given a lot of love. And maybe at times I haven't given Aaron Gordon a ton of love, but holy shit, has this guy, I just cussed. Damn it, my bad. He has been incredible these last couple games. Incredible. And it's funny because you think back when he was in Orlando, and I remember just like watching the summer pickup games where he's just like, he's at Sky in New York, and he's going between his legs, battling KD, and he's doing all this, going to his bag, right? Going to his bag. And then he gets to Denver, doesn't really go to his bag as much. But then all of a sudden you're like, well, you know what? I'm glad he developed a bag, because now in the most crucial moment of their season, you can have him bringing the ball up the court against pressure.
Well, he's such a unique player because he's one of those guys where it's, that you don't want him as 1 or 2, right? You don't want him as 1 or 2, but as a 2/3 guy and the way he plays off Jokic, right? Like Jokic maximizes his ability. That's what makes him special, but it's his intensity. It's his lock-in. It's his focus. When they need him, he's at a high level. He can have an off night. But again, he goes for 9 points in game 1, 20 points in game 2, just consistent, 13 points in game 3, then 27 and 18. Obviously the 27, 11 for 12 in game 4 or game 4. Yeah, game 4.
Yeah, game 4. 18, 10, and 5 last night.
But it's just like the level of consistent performance. He knows his role. He takes his shots. He's selective with his threes. Like, okay, 0 for 1, 3 for 5, 3 for 4, 2 for 2. Look, even Anthony Edwards like, yo, I'm getting sick of Aaron Gordon, because it's just like he just stays within himself so well. You talk about those summer runs where you see guys going between their legs, doing all this other stuff. But when it gets into the season, it's like, no, you're going to get on the dunker. If they start to collapse, you're going to pop out to the 3. You're going to shoot corner threes. You're going to dribble up in transition. This is your window for you to go be great at. And he's been great within his window. And those are the players that I think when you look at any championship team, there's always 2 or 3 players that are great, and it's just what you need them to do. Just go finish the ball, go hit the open jumpers. And when he gets hot, like Aaron Gordon, he's had a special 2 years, in my opinion, really special 2 years. Bear down.
Yeah, I know. I knew that was coming. I want to make a couple points on Rudy Gobert. Because I'm not going to do the full discourse and explanation right now, because no matter how many times I've fucking done it over the last 3 or 4 years, people want to point to these singular like games where it's like, oh, that's your defensive player of the year. I'm like, okay, yeah. So Jokic last night, he was 8 for 9 with Gobert as the primary defender. Going into that game last night, he was 11 for 28 with Gobert as the primary defender, including 4 for 13 in game 4. Jokic is, I think we can all agree, if he's not the best player in the world, he's certainly one of the 2 or 3 best players in the world. I'm not going to rank players right now. I think Jokic is the best player in the world, and I've said that consistently for the last year. All right. He's the best player in the world. He's going to fucking score against anybody. Also, did you see the moves and the shots he was making at times? Like, at some point, by the way, Rudy Gobert's like 7'3". At some point, you're like, oh, no, like maybe just it's the offensive players that good. And the whole point about him getting played off the floor, look, again, I said this after game 2 when we started talking about the weekend games last week on the Old Man on 3. Like, Denver had to figure out a way to get Gobert away from the basket. That's the challenge against the Minnesota Timberwolves. It was the challenge against the Utah Jazz. It's not an indictment on Rudy Gobert. It's fucking basketball. Sorry, I cussed again. Dang it. I'm sorry, DraftKings. You have a guy, like, think about this. You have it. Name a skill set. Name a skill set. This guy is elite at doing this. He's the best in the world at doing this. Let's try to take that away. Right?
Yeah.
That's called basketball. That is basketball strategy 101. Like, come on.
Well, and I don't understand Oh, that's your defensive player of the year? Okay, well, I'll tell you what. You line all 5 of them up. The top 5 candidates, Jokic would do the exact same thing to every single one of them. And he has multiple times over. You know, we talk about that old Lakers team that won it in 2020 was the last time, in my opinion, that the Denver Nuggets were healthy. They had so many bigs, and they had LeBron, which people don't really count him, but at 6'9", 200 and whatever, he's another body on top of all the ones they had when they won the championship and they beat Denver in the conference finals. There is no stopping Jokic. There is no. That's why you don't get an MVP because there's a game plan to stop you. You get MVP, and when you win 3 out of 4, that's because there is no game plan to stop you. We don't get to just talk trash about Rudy because he's had some prior, struggles in the post. I think Rudy has been outstanding. I think he's been again, last night, 7 for 7, 11 rebounds. Again, guys banged up, no Conley. So when I look at Rudy Gobert, I think he has done enough. Collectively as a group. These last 3 games have been unique. But Rudy Gobert, we're not blaming Rudy for this. He's just going against the best offensive center in the league when you include scoring and playmaking. Shout out Joel Embiid for just scoring.
Why don't that, Joel? That's unnecessary.
I'm saying when I say just scoring, I mean, I'm not going to disrespect Joel Embiid. He is the best scoring big man in the league. I'm not disrespecting, but when we're talking about scoring and distributing, he's the best. That's why I said shout out the best scoring big, Joel.
Oh, yeah. Okay, I got you.
Don't get sensitive.
You have the game Thursday.
Why are you pointing at me?
Oh, I feel like sometimes I have nonverbal hand signals. Just acknowledging that I'm talking to you.
Yes, I do.
You have the game Thursday in Minnesota. I think Conley's availability, super important. Ton of blitzes last night on Anthony Edwards. I think that's an important development. Like with no Conley, he's done such a good job as a table setter, as a spot up shooter off the ball. That matters. And look, Nickeil Alexander-Walker made some shots last night, but Conley's availability for game 6, super important. We'll be talking a ton of playoffs, and you're going to be joining. I know we have a few more of these to do, several more of these to do. You're gonna jump on these from time to time with me, correct? These live reactions.
Apparently,
that's what you committed to, bro.
Apparently, it's in my contract. So here we are at 6:15, now 6:58.
Last thing. We've got a new Road Trippin out. Go subscribe to Road Trippin over on their YouTube channel. And dude, thanks for coming on at what is now 6:48 in the morning for you.
I'm just gonna say, next time, can you be more professional and not wear a backwards cap? Just be more professional. Yes. If you want to accomplish something one day, that's my only request for you next time.
Okay, thank you, RJ.
My pleasure.
All right, this has been a special Islands Live presented by DraftKings Sportsbook. Thank you guys for watching.